So what I'll do, and so we went 7 rounds here, and I was just timing it and everything else like that. I see that there's obviously a difference of opinion in the definitions, what fits what, etc. So what I'll do is I'll go to closing arguments. I'll put, are you both okay with 3 minutes on the clock to make your closing argument?
Sure.
Or I can make it a little bit longer if you guys want, and then we can close that after that.
Yeah, whatever you guys want to do, I'm fine with.
Are you okay with 3 or do you want more?
3's probably fine.
3 minutes? Okay. Who wants to go first?
Well, I opened first, so usually person who opens closes last.
Okay. So, Destiny, I'll turn it to you. I'll put 3 minutes on the clock, and you can put your closing arguments here. And this was a fantastic discussion. Obviously, you have a good debate when the chat is like, if almost 50-50. So I'll go ahead and turn it to you, Destiny, and you can give us your closing arguments, and then I'll go turn it to Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, historically, there have been examples of things that were considered insurrections that were incredibly small in nature, right? I don't know if anybody died at all in the Whiskey Rebellion. I'm pretty sure everybody that got arrested for that was acquitted. It was just people basically essentially protesting the whiskey tax laws. This wasn't a massive deal that had explosions and gunfire and deaths everywhere. I think that we just don't tend to view things as insurrections as much anymore because we don't tend to have insurrections as much anymore because that's kind of become the new norm as the United States has, traveled through or journeyed through time. I think that the 4 elements that I gave, I think were pretty clearly met on January 6th. I think I've demonstrated that we can imagine a ton of events that are riots that wouldn't fit the 4 elements. I understand that Andrew has a really hard time understanding the difference between resisting a law versus just breaking a law. Just because somebody goes out and they engage in rioting doesn't mean that they are trying to resist the law of rioting, that they're trying to make it so that rioting is legal, that that's the goal of that particular riot. Oftentimes, riots can be said to come together to protest other types of things where people feel like the law isn't being executed in a reasonable manner. To say that a bunch of people that show up and end up rioting as a result of a protest that's against, say, a cop they feel like wasn't fairly prosecuted is the same as a bunch of people showing up to resist the certification of the vote as laid out in the Electoral Count Act is just not at all the same thing. But we can continue to misread the second element of this, and I understand why, and that's because if you grant the definition or any definition of insurrection, January 6th almost certainly follows from it, and the only way to escape January 6th as being labeled as an insurrection is to use either a ridiculous type of definition that literally nobody historically has ever agreed to, and again, you will never find historical citations, people that use these very unique and contrived definitions of insurrection, or you set the bar of evidence as being unbelievably high, which is saying something like Donald Trump needed to say, hey, everybody, we're going to go do an insurrection, and absent that, even if he's telling people to fight like hell, even if he's tweeting the day before, Vice President Pence has the ability to overturn the election, even if he's saying, we need to go down and march and fight like hell and take our country back, none of these things are going to matter if they don't actually use the word insurrection, which I guess means there's no such thing as an insurrection ever having occurred in all of U.S. history. I would say that if you argue with somebody who doesn't believe in a particular definition of insurrection, ask them, has any insurrection ever occurred ever? Which would you consider an insurrection? And then once they start to consider something as an insurrection, say, hey, well, what are the elements that make this an insurrection? Or even more, you could say, historically, what have judges and lawmakers considered an insurrection? People like Andrew will never do that. Instead, they will just play word games all day and try to say, well, riots fit, and what about states, and all these other things that aren't really relevant to defining an insurrection, which, however you define it, January 6th clearly was.
All right. Okay. That was 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I will turn it to you, Andrew, to make your closing arguments. And then, Andrew, from what I understand, you wanted to open up the phone lines, right, and have a discussion with the people after?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Even if Destiny has other places to go, I'm willing to stick around for call-ins. I've always done that on the Crucible.
Sure.
Sure. And I'm sure there's people.
Right now, as we speak, Bills is firing up the phone line, so we'll get that phone number out and put it on the screen, and you guys can, Destiny, if you want to stay, you can telegraph it to your audience, and we can answer some questions for the people. But I will turn it to you, Andrew, to make your closing arguments.
Yeah, well, it's really funny, this appeal to authority. Destiny grabs this entire nebulous definition from some guy that he respects on the internet and then claims that this is some authoritative definition. This is the authoritative definition because I read it from some guy on the internet. Oh, okay, great. Even though the courts themselves have not ruled on this, and nobody was charged with insurrection. Nobody was charged. Again, one more time, nobody charged with insurrection. Trump acquitted of inciting an insurrection, which, again, nobody was charged with. Talk about nebulous definition. He says, I'm playing word games. Meanwhile, he takes time today, all day, to assemble a 4-point, this is my definition, completely based on some other guy on the internet, which is crazy to me, right? This is Destiny's personal definition of what this means. And it clearly fits 3 of the criteria for rioting right off the gate. We only had an issue with 2. And then when we apply these, and remember my opening statement, I said in my opening statement, this is going to become very broad, right? There's no way that we're not going to be able to call all sorts of things insurrections that clearly are not insurrections. We come up with the idea of what if a bunch of dope smoking hippies all show up with the united purpose of smoking dope on federal land in order to resist the federal law. And then a couple of them start a fire and one gets beaten up with a baseball bat or something like this. Suddenly that's an insurrection. Clearly, nobody would think that that was an insurrection. Clearly, nobody would think that that's a completely unreasonable standard, right? But it's the Destiny standard. And the reason, again, that he had to have such a broad definition, the reason that he needed this, and he needed me to come in and give him some definition he could do an internal critique on, is because his idea that this was an insurrection is only there specifically to villainize the opposition for the purposes of demonization, so that when bad things happen to them, he can call them traitors. That's it. That's the whole game. It's been his whole game now for a while. And this is what got him on Piers and all these other things, which I recently reviewed, was that take. And so in order for him to justify that take, he has to make you a traitor because you don't believe that that was an insurrection that nobody was charged with.
Okay. 2:15. Guys, that was fucking fantastic discussion. Obviously people are going to have different viewpoints on where they go, but that's, I think, the beauty of any discussion like this in debate, that it, good debate always has people with different viewpoints saying like, oh, I think this guy did better. I think this guy did better. So great discussion from both. I am going to open up the phone lines right now. I think the number is going to be Block Talk, Bills.
Yeah.
So guys, the number is going to be 515-605-9740.
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio.
Yeah, I still remember. Yeah. But yeah, so that is going to be the phone number, guys, to call into the show. You can interact with us, whether it's me, Destiny, or
To start
Andrew.
your show now, press 1 to hear.
Your show is scheduled to start in 33 seconds.
And you just and Andrew, how do you normally run this? 515-605-9740. That's the number to call in, guys. Again, that number.
Usually just whoever calls in, they have a single question, answer the question, and then move on to the next caller. Maybe like a 30-second. Very quick back and forth so you can get to as many callers as possible.
Yeah.
Usually that's how I do it.
Okay, no, that's cool because we're gonna
Your
have.
show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
Okay, so guys, the number to call in is 515-605-9740. Again, that number is 515-605-9740. We're manning the phone lines here at Fresh and Fit. So if you call in, if you super chat, we'll go ahead and put you at the top of the list, get you in there faster. As usual, super chat with the last 4 digits of your number. And I think we just opened up the lines. Okay, so do we have anyone on now? I know we literally just opened them, but.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so as usual, guys, normal rules. If you want to skip the line, super chat the last 4 digits of your numbers in, and we will go ahead and get you on the line. Let's go ahead and hit the first caller here.
We got 6327. You're up. 6327. You're up.
Go ahead, 6327. And I'm going to be hosting a Zoom call after this, guys. Andrew, if you don't mind dropping in on Castle Club after this.
Of course.
Awesome.
At your service. Thank you so much for hosting this, and you guys coming in on your day off is very
You're
kind to
welcome
be.
to if you want to jump in and talk to my.
Hey, you guys ready for me?
But yeah, go ahead. But we'll do calls for a bit, and then we'll switch on over to Castle Club. And I appreciate you guys doing that for me. If you guys want to, thank you, Andrew. And if you want to come in, Destiny, awesome. We got someone on the line, right?
Yeah.
Okay, brother. Tell us your name, where you're from, and hit us with your question.
My name's Rick from Miami, Florida. The question is for Andrew. Very frustrating on his side to see the debate on his side. So I really do need an answer of what his definition is for an insurrection.
Are you asking me my definition?
Andrew's.
I'm not going to give you one. It's not my burden.
I feel like that's a cop-out. Okay, so that's
No,
all.
well, then you need to learn how to debate, because you not knowing how to debate doesn't mean that I'm copping out. It's not my position. The affirmative position, the person calling people insurrectionists, is not me.
Wait, how are we supposed to have a debate on if January 6th was an insurrection if you don't even have a definition of insurrection?
Why do I need to have a definition? To note that whatever definition that you could come up with would be too broad to apply to this. That's not a logical statement either, Destiny.
No, wait.
Yeah, hold on one second.
Wait, hold on.
He came in with some facts. He came in with some points, but you didn't.
Okay. Andrew, do you want to respond to him on that, or
I think we missed like 30%.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We were having an exchange. I missed the actual question.
No, I think his main criticism is he wants to know what your definition of insurrection is. Is that correct, caller?
Correct.
Yeah, it's not my burden.
Point
So.
on his definition of an insurrection.
It's not my burden.
Which way to not answer that kind of a definition of question, and he's using the words "it's not my burden" to cop out of that definition question.
Okay, why? How is it my burden?
Feels an insurrection.
So let me ask you a question, caller. Okay, let's assume for a second I didn't know what murder was, and you were trying to give me the criteria for what murder was. Could I logically give you a criticism for why that actually would fit something else that I do know what it is better than the idea of murder? Do you understand that, caller?
Yes.
Well, then what is your
I think
criticism?
what you're asking me is if something that you think fits another definition, would you be able to apply to that definition? And you could.
No, that's not what I'm asking you.
Not providing an actual argument to that. Like, all you're saying is, well, this could fit something else. But you're not saying.
No, I'm giving what's called an internal critique. An internal
Here.
critique doesn't necessitate an argument.
Hold on, this
So
doesn't make sense.
you
The
can
if
give an internal criticism.
if the debate has to do with whether or not a person was murdered, if that's the debate, was John murdered, and the entire debate is just you critiquing another person's definition of murder, but you're unwilling to put forth your own definition of murder, the implication is that you were never prepared to debate the actual topic of the debate, which is if somebody
That's not
was
the
murdered.
implication. That doesn't even make any sense. So, Destiny, let me ask you a counter question.
My argument is that is arguing in bad faith.
Okay,
That's not
thank you.
only is that not arguing in bad faith, it's arguing in the best faith.
No, okay, wait, what is
Destiny
the-
Destiny knew for sure that he had the burden, not me.
That's Destiny's thing. Next call. Let's get the next call.
Oh no! Wait, real quick, hold on, because this has to be answered. Hold on. How could you possibly deal with the topic if you don't have a definition of insurrection?
Well, let's try. I was just getting to that. So let me ask you, Destiny. Let us assume for a second that you weren't sure exactly what murder meant. You weren't exactly sure what the criteria was. Another person was calling this group of people a murderer, right? You had kind of an idea maybe of what that was. And so you went to them and you said, okay, can you tell me what you mean by murder? And they gave you some other criteria that fit way better with something other than their definition of murder. Why would that be illogical or in any way unreasonable?
That's not illogical and that's not unreasonable, but that would
Right.
only mean that you would be successful if the debate is Destiny's definition of insurrection satisfactory insofar as defining January 6th as an insurrection? But that wasn't the debate topic.
As
It
long as
wasn't
it
just
fits-
my definition of insurrection.
Yeah, it
the debate
was.
okay, wait. So how can do you agree that the prompt of the debate was January 6th an insurrection?
Yeah, why does that mean that I
How
have
can
to,
you answer that? Wait, do you not have to answer
Yes.
the prompt to a debate?
Yeah, so I'm not taking that. I'm neutral on it. It could have been. I was willing to.
Oh, you have
concede
no
that-
position?
I was willing to concede that it could have been. I said right in my opening, in good faith, I'll make concessions based under A, B, and C criteria if he can make these demonstrations. You never did.
Okay, so then just to be clear then, just so we're all so the prompt for the debate was January 6th an insurrection, and I came in with a positive and you came in with no position.
No, it wasn't no position. It was that it's possible that it was. It's possible that it wasn't.
That's no
And I was
position.
willing. I was willing to hear you. No, it's a neutral position. That's not no position.
That's no
Neutral
position.
is a
If somebody's
position.
looking okay.
I'm sorry. Is neutral not a position?
Not really, no.
Oh no, not really. Does that mean no or yes, Destiny? Is neutral a position or isn't it?
For the purposes of having a debate, no.
Oh, for the purposes of having a debate, you can't have a neutral position. Destiny,
somebody hosted
Stephen
a
Bonnell
debate-
III, the
Yep.
best leftist debater on planet
Yep.
Earth, ladies and gentlemen, neutral on a debate topic
Yep.
is not a position.
Not to have as a debater. That's correct. If there's a debate
Mm-hmm.
saying, is God real? And one person shows up and say, I'm arguing the affirmative, God is real. And the other person says, I'm a neutral position on that. Yeah,
Oh, I
it
guess
could be
you've
a good
never. I
debate.
guess you've never debated with an agnostic before who's neutral. They're
Not in
neutral
a
on it.
debate on what that would be a debate on agnosticism or Gnosticism,
No,
not a
it wouldn't.
debate
It could
on
be a
whether or not
debate on
God
if
is
God
real
is
or
real.
not real.
Why couldn't you go into a debate agnostic about God being real or not real, Destiny? Can you explain that real quick?
Because
I'd love to hear it.
definitionally, an agnostic doesn't take a position on or doesn't think they can have knowledge of the
They do
existence
take a
of
position.
God.
They take a
They don't
neutral
have a knowledge
position.
of God. So why would you debate a Gnostic person or somebody, an
That
agnostic
makes-
person, or
that
somebody
makes
on
no sense.
Gnosticism who doesn't have a position on the existence
Oh,
of God
so,
exists or
so
not.
agnostics can't have a neutral position about whether or not God exists or not.
You wouldn't
according
listen
to
to a
Stephen
debate
Bonnell
somebody,
III.
a person who's agnostic, you wouldn't listen to the debate on whether or not God is real or not. They would say, oh, well, I can't have information about the existence of God. And you go, okay, well, I guess you wouldn't have this
Oh,
debate.
well, then I guess 50% of the debates on modern day debate are incorrect because people have a neutral position, an agnostic position, like Matt Dillahunty, a guy you talked to, about whether or not God is real. Where Matt Dillahunty says, listen, I'm agnostic on it. He could be real. You just haven't demonstrated to me that he's real. Matt Dillahunty's wrong in all of those debates, right, Destiny?
He would be if that was the prompt of the debate. Yes, if the prompt of the debate was, is God real or not real?
I'm
And
doing
you
the
come in and you
triangle.
go,
I'm
oh,
doing the
You
triangle.
come in and you go, oh, well, I'm agnostic. Then you'd go, okay, well, why the fuck are you in this debate? You don't have a position on it. Then bring in somebody that feels an atheist who wants to have a strong position of like he's not real, and then a theist who has a strong position he is real.
That makes no sense. You can still
Okay.
have a neutral position. That's absurd. I don't know. How in the world are you the world's best leftist debater if you don't know you can take a neutral position? in
This is like
debate?
saying you want to have a debate between two people between who is God or what is God, and one person is Catholic and the other person is an atheist. It's a nonsense position. Everybody knows this. This is like a debate game.
Oh,
right
everybody
now.
knows it,
This
so
is a
it's
debate
true.
game. Yeah.
Just like everybody knows it's an insurrection, even though they can't charge
I didn't
anybody
say
with an
everybody knows
insurrection.
it's an insurrection.
Right?
I said the historical record says it's an insurrection, but
Uh-huh.
Okay. So what I'll do here is we'll move to the next caller
Yeah,
here.
go for it.
Let's Mo, you got it up?
5584, you're up. 5584, you're up.
All right. Welcome to the show, 5584. You got Myron Gaines, Destiny, and Andrew Wilson in the house. Hit us with your question, please, quickly, because we got a lot of people on the line. Holy shit.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, bro. You're on air.
70.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, man. You're on there.
Oh, hello. Well, damn. Well, never. So, I just wanted to ask, do I have to solely debate on this topic alone, or can I just talk about other topics as well?
You want to keep a topic
yeah, just on
specific,
this
please.
alone, yeah, because otherwise
Yeah.
people are going to be calling in for every. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is whole. I mean, neither of them actually gave a definition. Neither of them gave a definition on the topic at all. Like, Destiny, what was your definition of insurrection?
An insurrection has four crucial elements. One is that there's an assembly of people for a common purpose. Two is that you are resisting a particular law or you're interfering with the course of government proceeding. Three is that you're doing this by way of force or intimidation. And then four is you're doing it for a public purpose, not like a private one. You're not showing up to like steal something, or you're not showing up because you're like upset about like how a sporting event turned out. There's like a public interest in it.
Damn.
Yeah,
And I
caller,
agree
he
with
said
you
that
on
at the top of
means
his
that
argument, bro.
generally speaking, wasn't insurrection.
Caller, he said that at the top of his argument, dude, and he was referencing the 14th Amendment. You might have missed it.
No, I'm just saying. No, I agree with him that it wasn't insurrection, but wasn't Andrew's whole point that January 6th was not an insurrection? I believe that was his whole point.
Well, Andrew doesn't have a point because he rejects my definition of insurrection, and then he appeals to some universal definition of riot, which I'm not even sure he's given. And then he appeals to, well, this is what everybody would think a riot is. And then he appeals to, well, nobody would agree that hippie people engaged in your definition of insurrection are committing an insurrection. So I guess Andrew's just agnostic on the question of whether or not J6 was an insurrection because he doesn't have a definition of what an insurrection is.
Okay, but I think you answered his question, Destiny, so we can move on to the next guy.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Thank you for calling in. We're going to move on to the next caller. Again, guys, 515-605-9740. Shout out to Mo and Bills manning the phone lines in the back. If you super chat in the last four digits of your number, fnfsuperchat.com, we will go ahead and rumble rant, whatever you want to do. We're live on all the platforms. We will get you to the top of the list, last four digits of your number. Who's up next?
4086, you're up. 4086.
Go ahead, 4086. Shout out to the production team in the back, man, making this fucking flawless. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, so I got a question for Andrew. Just it's not. I'm not trying to debate on it. It's just a question. I'm just trying to gauge what you think about this. So, Andrew, if there was like a leader or whatever per se of the country or whatever, right? Like, and you genuinely wholeheartedly believe that this leader was like an evil person or whatever, and they're gonna bring reign and terror to your country or whatever, do you think it's morally justified to take him out before he causes some harm?
That's really context specific. So I'm possibly. Possibly.
If you believe that this leader is like the next Hitler or whatever, you generally thought that. Do you think it's like okay to like kind of take over or
It's again that claim is it's really listen. That claim is really context specific. I'm going to tell you it's possible, yes, but I'm not sure because it would be under some type of it's like a nebulous concept, the context behind this. So I'm not sure. Maybe it could be. There's a possibility but that doesn't mean yes or no. I'm not sure. I would need context for this.
Okay, so I mean, just take the Trump shooting for example.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right. So I mean, like, suppose that guy that did it or whatever legitimately thought that like Trump was going to be the next Hitler. Do you think he was in the like almost a moral right or whatever to try to take him out?
No.
Okay. Why?
Well, so we're not allowed to, in this nation, assassinate our political opposition. And if you want to know why that would be immoral, it's because that would be murder. But if you want to know why that would be illegal, it's because there's a crime against, killing people. That's why it would be illegal. It's a crime. You can't kill people.
Okay, so that's fine. So let's just take.
Just
away
to be
murder.
clear, I don't think assassinations are allowed in any country. I think they're usually not okay. But
Okay, hold on. I just want to ask: do you think it's okay to just stop them? Just stop them from taking office, like just physically force and prevent them from taking office.
I mean, I'm trying to follow this. Maybe it could be, but what do you mean? You mean, is it okay to physically stop Trump from taking office?
If a bunch of people pulled up and just like forcibly, physically, we're say like we're not going to allow you to be president because we think you're going to be awful. Do you think it's okay to do that?
Yeah, that would be criminal. Yeah, you can't do that. No.
Okay.
All right.
That's it. Thank you.
No problem, man. We'll move on to the next caller. Again, 515-605-9740. Super chat, last 4 digits of your number to cut the line. Go ahead, Mo.
3990. You're up.
Go ahead, 3990.
Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Andrew, I have a question. Can you define me a chair?
Do you want? Well, it depends on. This is like the sandwich argument, right? So, what is a sandwich? What is a chair? This kind of thing. So, when you look at the essence of a thing, right? It is possible that all definitions could fall short to an essence of a thing, but that doesn't mean we can't recognize the essence of a thing. Which is why, if we were to take the idea of, a bunch of hippies smoking a fucking blunt in a forest somewhere to resist federal law, and then they started burning the forest down because a couple of them got too rowdy, calling that an insurrection wouldn't fit the spirit of what that means. So while you're looking at both the definition, you're also looking at the application. So when you ask, can I define a chair? Sure. Can I give you a definition of a chair which you can't pick apart? Likely not.
But isn't that what you're doing right now?
No, it's not what I'm doing right now. Because there's still an essence to the thing. There's still something which we're perceiving to the thing, which makes it a chair. The same way it makes it an insurrection. So if it fits the criterion of a riot better, and when we see it as a riot, and everybody sees it as a riot more than they do an insurrection, which is why it was charged that way, it seems like it falls under riot better.
who was charged for a riot?
Well, they're charged under the purview of rioting.
I thought
And
they
I
were
can
charged
pull
for
up-
like trespassing and stuff.
Yeah, well, trespassing as well. So these
That's
are
not a
these are gonna
riot,
be-
though.
Well, these are going to be tangential laws.
What is
and
a
again,
tangential law? What does that mean?
So if let's say for a second that you're arrested for for trespassing, right? Certainly that's not going to fit the definition of an insurrection, right?
Is there
That's not gonna fit
wait,
the
is there a
definition of an
federal crime?
insurrection.
Is there a federal crime for rioting?
Well, maybe not, but it would be under purview of what rioting is.
I don't know what that means. Purview of what rioting is when we talk about criminal charges. I don't know what that means.
Okay, well, you agree with me there is rioting.
I don't know if rioting is a public or is a federal crime. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know. Okay, I get that. But do you agree with me there is rioting?
I agree that riots exist. Yeah.
Yeah, and do you agree that you and I could likely agree on what a riot is?
I don't know. You don't want to give definitions for anything.
Well, I mean, if I gave you examples, do you think we could agree? Like, if I showed BLM footage of their riots, do you think that you would agree that those were riots?
No, I would ask you very specifically, was anybody charged with a riot? And if they weren't, then I would say that by your earlier definitions of insurrection, these must not have been riots.
You
because
mean
you can't show me somebody charged with a
what
crime of
definitions
rioting.
did I give you of insurrection?
You made it sound like a necessary element of an insurrection having occurred was an individual being charged with a crime of insurrection. You repeated this like 20 times.
That never happened.
Then why did you bring that up over and over and over again?
Because, well, no. So you're conflating two different ideas. So idea one is nobody was charged with an insurrection, which means the powers that be also, when they saw this under their purview, probably didn't think that it fit the criteria for whatever an insurrection's going to be. And so we have to untangle this idea. And then we move on to idea 2, which is your definition may fit something else better than it fits actual insurrection.
Okay. Then you'd have to show me for a particular BLM riot that somebody was charged with the crime of rioting. And if they weren't
Well,
charged with that, and they were
no,
charged with
I
something else,
wouldn't.
I'd say, oh, people probably didn't think there was a
You would
riot.
have
They
to,
just
you
felt
would
like
have
a
to
couple
demonstrate
people.
for me how this was actually an insurrection.
I already did. I laid out 4 necessary elements, that things that wouldn't encompass a riot. And
Okay, well, I would say that Chaz and Chop was like open rebellion or insurrection.
Okay,
Would
and then
would
I would
that be a
ask
fair
you. I would
demonstration?
ask you no, because I would ask you for a single historical example, either judicially, legally, or through any kind of like historical
So-
writing, where
so
they
then-
say that you can engage in an insurrection against a state. I'm not aware of that being possible. I don't think insurrections are defined for states. But if you can show me an example, then I say, oh, okay, fine. Then Chaz was an insurrection.
Yeah, okay, but the definition itself, right? If I were to define it that way, right, as like Chaz Chop, and I'm not, right? But I'm saying I can at least look at that and say this is something akin to this, of what I would expect to see under the criteria of X, Y, and Z. That's my point.
Maybe, but you never gave me a definition for insurrection, so I'm not sure.
I mean, it's a good thing that Andrew doesn't think there are no riots during the BLM protest because no one got convicted. So that's a good takeaway, I guess. But thank you, guys. That's it.
All right, so we'll move to the next caller. So, guys, I'll just discuss with my team how we'll do it. We'll answer a few more phone calls here, and then what I'll do is we'll stay live on YouTube and all the other platforms. As you guys know, obviously, go check out Destiny, go check out Andrew Wilson on their respective YouTube channels. They're streaming as well. This is, a multi-stream between all the different platforms. I think between all of us, guys, we got like 50,000 plus, around 30 to 50,000 watching us. And what I'll do is I'll send a Zoom link to all the Castle Club members, and we'll answer questions exclusively with the Castle Club members. And I appreciate you guys doing that for me. But we'll answer a few more phone calls for guys that are just watching the show regularly. But we'll stay on, but we'll answer questions from Castle Club members only. But we'll do that in a bit after we answer some more here. Who's next on the line? We'll try to get through as many of you guys on.
One,
Good.
1143, you are up. 1143, you are up.
And before we bring him on, Destiny, Andrew, do you guys want it where he just asks the question, then we just move on, then take him off the line, you answer the question, then go on so we get more people through? You guys
However you want to do it, bro.
Okay, because I know you normally do this on your thing. So
That would be better, is have the caller say what they say and then disconnect them. Otherwise, it's like a back and forth that could last forever. So.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll do that then. So, caller, go ahead, say your name, where you're from, ask your question, and then we'll, have them respond to your question and move on. Get as many people through.
1143, go ahead.
Go ahead, brother.
All right, I'll remain unnamed, but I just want to point out that the particular government proceedings that BLM as a movement was interfering with were the various court cases related to police brutality. So
Okay,
in
so
that
that's
case,
more of a comment.
does BLM meet the criteria of an insurrection?
You wouldn't. I wouldn't define like an entirety of a summer of protests or riots or insurrections as like a particular insurrection. Also, I don't think that I'll ignore the federal state distinction for now. What?
One entity.
Sure, but if we look
Consistently as BLM through the whole summer.
do what? Say that again.
And they profess themselves in favor of a certain type of outcome in various court cases relating to police brutality, and demanded forcefully with intimidation that the government bend to what they wanted the outcome to be. How does this not make BLM an insurrection?
It's
Not
you,
insurrection.
if you can, you might there. My guess is going to be that if we went through every single like BLM riot, that we could probably find some that I would say might meet my definition. If we ignore the state-federal distinction, we might find some that meet my definition of insurrection.
And that Trump is a bad president because he led an insurrection, then Kamala Harris directly provided aid and support to insurrectionists. So wouldn't this also make Kamala Harris an insurrectionist?
No, because I don't think any court has reviewed any of that behavior and found any of it to be an insurrection, number one. And number two, I don't believe that providing bail money is considered part of aiding and abetting.
Whoa. No court has said that this is an insurrection either.
That's not true. The Colorado State Supreme Court did.
Why wasn't anybody charged then, Destiny, with insurrection? If
Because
it
it
was an
wasn't
insurrection?
reviewing, because the court wasn't reviewing it for a criminal proceeding. It was the Colorado State Supreme Court. They don't have the authority or jurisdiction to hear
And
a
what has
federal
the Supreme
court
Court
case.
said?
The Supreme Court said that they didn't really want to deal with it, so they basically axed it.
Right. So we're just operating off of your definition. Under your definition, he's meeting the criteria for these being insurrections because he's saying that this is now federal, that these are impeding and resisting federal laws at this point. And so if that is the
No one
case,
is
you would have to
resisting the
concede.
federal laws. That's just, you haven't demonstrated that. The federal execution of what law?
Well, wait a second. Weren't they resisting the federal laws of how police are able to deal with suspects and things like this?
Were they? Were
that
they
what
saying,
police reform was?
Was a federal law? That's not, none of that is federal. But I don't think you understand.
I mean, that's what the caller's saying, though.
No, it sounded like he was saying they were protesting particular court outcomes. That's the judicial system, not the legislative system. So I understand that government is confusing, but these are two totally different things. I don't know if you can have an insurrection protesting court decisions. I'm not aware of that ever being the case. If you can engage in insurrection or rebellion against a court decision, I'm not aware of that.
All right. We will go on to the next caller. Who's up next? And we'll take a few more of these guys. Then I'm going to drop a link in Castle Club for Castle Club members to come in and ask these questions.
7579, you are up. 7579, you are up.
Go ahead, brother.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Y'all hear me?
Got you.
Hey, I got a question for Destiny, and I think Andrew can pick up off afterwards. So based off of your 4 points that you gave for what would make an insurrection, technically, none of your points make it necessary for there to be violence. You say in point 3, force or intimidation, but it doesn't necessarily have to be violent. So based off of that, wouldn't any legal protest where you're advocating for a certain political cause or anything like that in a public space, wouldn't that also, by your definition, count as an insurrection?
No, because I think that the intimidation part is important. The quote that I borrowed from here was from Justice Marshall in 1807. He said, quote, "The most comprehensive definition of levying war against the king or against the United States, which I have seen, requires an assemblage of men ready to act and with an intent to do some treasonable act and armed in warlike manner, or else assembled in such numbers as to supersede the necessity of arms." So I don't think you necessarily have to engage in violence, but I think that having the people there with the purpose of like intimidation and being ready to act with violence, I think is easily enough to satisfy element
No
3.
justice, no justice, no peace.
You would have to point to you would have to point to a particular thing that like
Yeah,
what is the
I'll point to Chaz Chop. So do you think that if you were to take over a big portion or even a small, tiny portion of a state and consider it to now be neutral from the United States itself, that becomes a federal matter?
I don't know. Is that what was it considered a federal matter?
Well, don't you think that is resisting federal law? If you make the claim we are seceding this area from the United States, how would that not be federal?
Were they seceding it from the United States, or were they
That's what they
seceding
claimed.
it, or were they seceding it from Washington or whatever?
What?
Were they seceding from the United States of America, or were they seceding
Yes.
from like the state or
They
the
said
city?
that this is a
so they no
neutral
longer
zone, we are
accepted
seceding.
USD. They no longer employed or recognized
I'm
like
not sure
interstate
that
travel
even if you
or
were to have a succession or a secession, that would mean you couldn't accept USD anymore.
okay. I don't
Like,
know
why
enough.
why would that matter?
Because it seems like if you're going to secede from a country, it feels like part of that would be like establishing your own government, establishing your own like foreign relations
Yeah, but
and
you
ambassadors.
can still have USD, and they did. They were trying to do that. They had their own armed militant group who was there armed, definitely intimidating, refused to allow people to come in and out of the zone. They were trying to start their own economy, their own gardens. They had annexed the buildings which were around them. That definitely seems like they're resisting federal law. You're not allowed to secede in the United States. That's a big no-no.
I don't remember this being. Can you tell me what statements or what they made? I don't know the details of this. What did they make, or what statements did they make about federal secession?
Yeah, so Chaz Chop, they considered it the neutral zone. There was multiple statements made that this is no longer part of the United States.
By who?
We're taking this over, just by the people who were there.
By the people. So if a random person says a particular thing that, because I thought you said earlier that we couldn't
Well, I mean,
read
if a
intent
random
into the
person
Donald
takes a
Trump
baseball
crowd.
bat to someone,
You
you
said
call it a
earlier that we
secession.
couldn't read intent into the Donald Trump crowd, despite the fact that people were hanging signs saying 1776, hang Mike Pence, and the statements that Trump had made. But I can ascertain.
Yeah, but you say such an inference is fine. So
I
this
didn't.
Is,
I
again,
said the inference is fine because of the
Well, wait a
collection of
second. This
statements
is
that
the
Donald Trump had
same
made,
as an
collecting the people
internal-
there for a given purpose
Bro,
that they
that makes no
actually managed to
sense.
succeed in doing. It makes perfect sense. I can lay it out from start to finish if you
over
want.
me before I can make the point doesn't help your point. No, it actually doesn't make any sense. Because your claim is that you can read into the hearts and minds of these people based on what you perceive their actions to be. It's like, okay, fair enough. So if the people who are there are doing the exact same thing, they're saying, okay, this is now a neutral zone. We're seceding from the United States of America. Why can't we read that into their actions as well, Destiny? It makes no sense.
I would absolutely do that if but I don't know of any statement like that. And you can't name a single one, so I don't know what I'm supposed to go. I don't know what I can work off of.
If Chaz Chop, if there was such a statement, let's just assume that there was for a second, would you then consider that to be an insurrection?
If they said that we are going to secede from the United States of America and they had like some organized violent wave and all the other elements were met, then I would say, yeah, this would count as an insurrection.
Okay.
Easy, sure, easily, of course.
Gotcha.
But you wouldn't say the same for January 6th, though, because you haven't given a definition of insurrection, but that's the difference between good faith and bad faith, by the way.
No, that's not bad faith for me to do an internal critique in your definition when I can at least take your definition and say, wait a second, all of these apply to a different category.
Yeah, but
and
you're
that was established very well.
You're critiquing my definition without even having a definition of your own.
I don't need to have a definition to critique yours. That's absurd.
No,
that's illogical
but
and
the debate. Stop using illogical. It doesn't mean anything. You're abusing the word. Okay. The debate was whether or not the debate was over whether or not January 6th was an insurrection. If you only came to that debate to critique my position, and I shouldn't even let you get away with this. You said earlier that you were neutral on it. You're not neutral on it. The answer for you is you can't compute the question. It's undefined. You don't have a neutral position. If you don't have a definition of insurrection, you can't possibly take a position. It's like dividing by zero. The answer is not neutral or nothing. You just have an undefined position on it because you don't even have a definition of a term.
Yeah, I know you hate this.
That is true. I don't like arguing with the person that doesn't know.
That's actually an illogical statement to say that I would need to have a definition of anything to critique your definition of it if I have something else that I can make a comparison to that fits with better, that you agree it fits better in.
Okay, can I ask you? You don't get that. Okay, what would your position be on if I were to ask you? Is January 6th?
What the fuck?
What's your answer to that? Is January 6th?
Did you just go blah, 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 blah?
I'm asking you, was January 6th a What's your answer to that? Would you say you're neutral on that?
Well, that would be incoherent. I wouldn't even understand what you're saying.
Thank you. I agree. Yes. Insurrection, that term is incoherent to you because you have no definition for the word. So I'm uttering nothing to you. When I say insurrection, you have no way to compute the question, so you can't say that you're neutral on it. The same way that you can't say you're neutral on it being you can't say that you're neutral on it being an insurrection because you have no definition for insurrection.
How language works then when you say,
apparently not.
This is a Snicker bar. And I don't know what a Snicker bar is, but I can't make comparisons to other things so that I can at least understand where you're coming from with what a Snicker bar is. Okay, Destiny.
That's correct. That is correct.
Yeah,
what if I showed you a
absurd.
bar and you're like, that's not a Snicker bar. That looks like a chocolate wafery thing with caramel on it.
That's
a Snicker bar.
And
you go, no,
great how
actually,
that works?
this
if
fits
things
way
fit other
better
criteria better
with a Milky Way. That's actually way more like a Milky Way. No, it's not quite a Milky Way. It's a Snicker bar. And you're like, well, I don't even have a
Well, then
definition.
it would fit that criteria of a Snickers bar, the ontology of a
you
Snickers
wouldn't know.
bar, better than the
ontology
ontology of a Milky Way.
You don't have that ontology is not existent for you because it's undefined. You have no definition of what a Snickers bar even is.
You don't need to have a definition for you to understand an ontology of a new concept. What are you talking about?
You can't argue.
That's crazy.
We're arguing over whether a thing is a thing, whether A is B, and for you, B is undefined. So you can't even be agnostic on the question. You can't compute it. It's gibberish to you, like when I utter gibberish.
No, this is gibberish to me. This makes no sense. Why? There's absolutely no reason why, if you've never, even if you were to grant, I'd never even heard the term insurrection before, that I couldn't understand if you came up with a term for insurrection. I said, well, fit this other criteria better, why it is that you couldn't concede that that was true. That's this absurd logic. And yes, Destiny, it's illogical.
Okay, we can move to the next caller. I'll take a few more of these that we're gonna Castle Club guys. I'm going to send you guys a link on Castle Club where you can join in and be the people that ask these guys the questions. And it'll be and don't worry, we won't have your face on camera because we're streaming on all the platforms. So we're going to protect your identity. If you want to be on camera, maybe we'll do that. But in general, you will just have your voice play. Who's up next?
And whoever is 7983, I see you donated, but you're not in the phone line. So
Okay, 7893, get in there. Who's up next behind him?
1753, you're up.
1753, you're on the air with Destiny, Myron, and Andrew. Go ahead.
1753.
There you go. What's up, brother?
Yes, sir. Hello. How are you guys doing?
Good, man. What's your question for the panel?
Quick question. It's tangentially related, but Andrew, why do you think Trump didn't call anybody during the riot? Like there were 3 hours. Cops had their shit kicked out of them. He didn't call anybody except for his lawyer and stuff. But like Nancy Pelosi, that's usually the defense. She was the high queen of all Capitol security. Why didn't Trump call Nancy Pelosi?
It's not within. This is not within the purview of the. This is not within the purview of the debate. I don't care about your diatribe. I don't care about your emotional state. This is not within the purview of the debate.
All right. Next up, 8438. You are up. 8438. You are up.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Go ahead, brother.
I appreciate you having me. I have a quick question for Destiny. It's kind of like at the end of the debate, toward the end, he conceded to Andrew's example of the hippie rebellion and hippie insurrection. If that's the case, then wouldn't you also have to say that the inauguration for Trump in 2017, the overturning of Roe v. Wade at the Supreme Court, and the I'm sorry, go ahead.
Nobody say anything?
Yeah, we're just listening, caller.
Yeah, just listening to you, bro. Go ahead.
Wouldn't you have to say that those two events, and then of course you have the White House bombing after the George Floyd death with Trump and everything? Wouldn't you have to say that those would fall within the same definition as well?
I would have to go through the facts of each of these, but if you can show me that there was an assembly of people that united for a common purpose, that they were there to contravene some type of federal law, that the resistance's goal was to make use of force or intimidation, and that they were there for something that was like in the public interest, then whatever you're going to give me here, I'm going to say, well, yeah, if it's my definition of insurrection, then I would say these were probably insurrections. Sure.
All right, thanks.
Also, wait, hold on. Real quick. Not only would I say that, you should say that too. Let's say, for instance, let's say that when Roe v. Wade changed or whatever, let's say the federal government was going to do a particular thing. They were gathering to, let's just say they were doing a ban on it. Let's say that you had, let's say that Kamala Harris was marching with these people, chanting and cheering them on and saying like, we're going to stop the government from banning abortion, okay? They're going to sign this law today. We're not going to let them do it. We're going to make our voice here. We're going to go and fight like hell. We're going to do what we need to do to make them not pass this law. They show up when it's going to be signed. She's outside cheering them on as they break into the Capitol building. They go in. When we talk about whether an insurrection is occurring or not, right, and we talk about the 14th Amendment, you shouldn't want her to be president again. You should say, hey, you took an oath to the Constitution, and now you're engaging in insurrectionist behavior. You're violating your oath to the Constitution. I don't want you running for office again. We should all think that. I would think that. All of us should have that feeling, that if somebody has engaged in or aided in helping people engage in insurrection, then you shouldn't want this person who was in office to run for office again, I would say.
All right, we'll move on to the next caller. And guys, just so you know, we're going to drop the Castle Club link, the Zoom call link in Castle Club right now. So get in there and then raise your hand in the Zoom call, and we'll answer one or two more calls, and we'll go over to the Castle Club guys only. But we're going to drop the link right now. Castle Club guys, go ahead and join CastleClub.tv. You know how to support, free speech on our side. And but we'll take a few more callers while we get that set up on our Zoom side. Who's up next, Mo?
4849.
Okay, 4849.
4849.
You're on there with Destiny, Myron, and Andrew. What is your question, brother?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, welcome to the show.
All right, cool. So this whole debate was over a definition of was this event the thing of insurrection? So if you were to pick something like, we'll say there's a shape, and we were going to debate whether this shape was a square or not. Andrew's argument seems to be that, oh, well, that maybe fits the definition of a rhombus or a parallelogram better, and that basically those definitions are mutually exclusive. I think that a lot of people would agree that the January 6th event does fall under the definition of a riot, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it also wasn't an insurrection. So if you say, oh, hey, this shape, well, it has four sides, and each of the four sides is parallel, and say, well, that's a rhombus or that's a parallelogram, that's not actually a square, then like, okay, but you haven't said what a square is. And Destiny has put forth not just a personal definition, but the legal definition that's agreed onto by lots of courts, and that's how we do laws. You know, we use courts' opinions to figure out whether this is falls under the courts, like the federal definition of what everybody agrees that is. And so the saying, oh, well, I don't have to define what a square is, it fits my definition of a rhombus fine, then
I see.
I don't see what we're arguing, because it seems like Andrew within that definition. So
You cut out,
he
caller.
agrees, but he doesn't like the
Bro,
name.
hang on. You cut out. Like me and Destiny both missed like maybe 15 seconds there.
Oh, sorry. Do you know where it was that it stopped?
Um,
I'm just saying that the definition of riot and insurrection is not mutually exclusive. And so that just because he says that, oh, this fits my personal definition of a riot, does not necessarily mean that it's also not an insurrection. And the fact that they were trying to prevent some function of the government from happening, some law from being followed or carried out by the U.S. government, that's the defining factor. That's the thing that makes it an insurrection. And we can say that it was a riot, cool, but it was also an insurrection.
okay. Anything else?
Oh, would you say, and this is why I'm saying that you need to have some sort of way of saying this is not an insurrection, other than saying this is a riot.
Yeah, we've already been over this though multiple times. I know you don't understand the argument, but that doesn't mean it wasn't made.
Why it isn't?
Yeah, it's not. So I don't think you understand what the burden of proof is. Okay, I never have to tell you why the thing that
it's not an
you don't. Why don't,
arguing that it's a
dude?
riot.
If you're just going to cut me off and not let me answer, then we're not going to have a productive convo.
Caller,
Go ahead.
let him make his point. Go
Okay,
ahead.
who's the burden of proof on here?
It's on both of us.
No, it's not.
It
Who's the
is.
burden of proof on?
Well, if the burden of proof to say that it's not an insurrection is on the person who's claiming.
No, it's not my burden to say it's not. It's not my burden to say that it is.
You have no
The
position
burden,
on
the
whether
burden of
it's
proof is on the person who makes the claim, not for me to negate said claim, but for them to prove it. That's the distinction. Do you understand that?
You say you have no claim that it's not an insurrection.
You're not. Why? No. Answer my question. Do I need to negate a claim for you to be able to prove it? Can't you prove a claim?
Well, if you're
Answer my question, dude.
it categorically does not fit the term.
Yeah, I know. You're not answering the question, right?
Term
Okay.
insurrection.
All right. All right. Whatever you say, bro.
I know you don't want to answer. It's fine. So
All right. We'll go to next caller. And just you
just
guys.
as a real quick thing. So like the prompt was January 6th an insurrection? Debating my definition of insurrection doesn't satisfy the prompt. It only satisfies attacking my position. But even if you did manage to completely defeat my position, not by actually showing, because you're not even really defeating my position, you're just making my position incoherent. But by doing so, you're also admitting that your position is incoherent as well, right? If you can prove that I don't have a good definition for
Do you
insurrection,
remember at the?
if you can prove
yeah.
that I don't have a good definition for insurrection, then you can prove that my position of saying it is an insurrection is incoherent. I would have to use some other word.
So
But
do
you haven't
you-
even given a position at all. So
Yeah,
at
so
best,
do
you've
you-
only put us both at neutral, which is
Do
kind
you
of meaningless.
remember? Do you remember in the beginning of the debate where I gave you the criteria for the concessions that I would make if you were willing to concede on X, Y, Z point?
Yeah, but we're not here to just argue. Does Destiny have a
But if I,
satisfactory definition of insurrection?
but if I
which
can
is what the debate
negate,
has
and we
become.
both, but if I have no negation, but we end up on neutral because your definition is incoherent, then do you remember when I said in my opening statement that the goal of that was to show that you no longer have the moral high ground because everything's a fucking insurrection at that point, and that means you're as much of an insurrectionist as the people you're accusing of being insurrectionists. That's
to be
the
clear,
point.
that wouldn't make everything an insurrection. That would just make all riots an insurrection.
Yeah, I was being hyperbolic.
Okay, well, that's kind of hard when you're also being illogical. But
No,
the
I
idea
wasn't being
is
illogical.
that, all you're doing is reducing us both to the same position, which seems odd at the end of the day. But okay.
Why? Depends on what the goal of the debate is. In this
The
particular
goal was to
case,
show that both of
I
us are
believe-
neutral on whether
Yeah,
January 6th
no,
was an insurrection.
no,
You know that you don't
no.
actually
If
believe
you're
that. You believe it
neutral-
wasn't,
if
right?
You're neutral, if you're
Mhm.
neutral on whether or not January 6th is an insurrection, your claim is voided.
But then so would yours be, unless your claim is
What
you don't
claim
have a
am I
position.
making?
Well,
my claim is
if
only
you're,
that.
if you're a
My claim is
challenger,
only that
if you're
you
a
can't
challenger,
demonstrate it was.
if I
That's
say
it.
if I say that January 6th was an insurrection, you wanted to challenge that position. Generally, the challenge would be that January 6th wasn't an insurrection.
Yeah,
not that January
things like
6th, not that January
generally-
6th doesn't comport with Destiny's definition of insurrection, or I think Destiny's definition of insurrection is incoherent. That's a different kind of debate.
Well, no, I don't think it's a different kind of debate. And saying loaded things like, well, generally this means doesn't mean anything. So ultimately, if I
Well,
can
generally,
reduce,
what thing
if
means
I can
what?
reduce this, if I can reduce this to a neutral position, then your claim that this was an insurrection is false.
Okay, but then your claim that it wasn't an insurrection is also false.
I never made such a claim.
What is your claim? Your claim is just that you're neutral. You have no position on it.
My claim was that I could be swayed either way. That
But
you
that's
could
not what the
convince
debate.
me.
The debate wasn't
You
here
could
to
convince
sway you.
me.
Well, no, you can't be convinced because you can't even accept a definition of insurrection. So that's just not true.
I can be convinced, and you just saying you can't be convinced doesn't mean anything again.
So are you unconvinced by historical courts that have convicted people or used these definitions of insurrection in order to write legislation or in order to write constitutional amendments? What do you think the founding fathers meant? Not founding fathers, I guess. What do you think the framers of Section 3 of the 14th Amendment meant when they said insurrection? What do you think?
I
they
think that
meant?
they're tying it to rebellion.
Why would
Because
they?
every
But they very clearly.
Because every time I saw it, it seemed to coexist with rebellion. Every single time I see this, it seems like it's a lead towards rebellion.
If you agree that it meant rebellion, why would there be so many people that draw distinctions between insurrection and rebellion?
Yeah, until it comes to charging time. When it comes to charging time, it seems that if they can't draw it
Hold
towards
on. Why do you
rebellion-
keep just because you're talking about charges, criminal court and calling a
Well,
thing a
if
thing
you're
are
going to
two
appeal
different
to
things?
if you're going to appeal to authorities here based around legal definitions, it's perfectly acceptable for me to appeal to the legal authorities, which are refusing to charge under this criteria, Destiny. They're refusing to charge under this criteria for insurrection, and it seems every definition that I can find for this is somehow vaguely associated with rebellion.
Yeah, it's associated with it because I believed every rebellion started with an insurrection, but that doesn't mean that every rebellion is an insurrection. That's why they use rebellion or insurrection, for
Yeah,
instance, in
perhaps
Section
not.
2 of the
So,
Second Confiscation Act. You can't give any historical things, though.
So I think if
right?
there was-
So,
if
for
there
instance,
was a
they say
big
in any
open-
rebellion or insurrection, inciting and setting foot on, assisting or engaging in any rebellion or insurrection, which is set under Section 2 of the Second Confiscation Act, they're two different things. That's why they use.
But the reason I think that the Supreme Court especially didn't want to hear this is because they would end up like you giving a definition which was so broad that it would encompass all sorts of things that we don't really perceive of as being insurrections, because we really associate insurrection and rebellion with the same kind of idea, which is exactly why I don't believe for a second, while you're over there saying you're good faith, that you believe for a second that if a bunch of dope smoking hippies to, kind of resist federal law went and smoked a bunch of joints on federal property and a couple of them got rowdy, you would believe that that was an insurrection. I don't believe you. I simply
If a
don't
bunch of
believe you.
people smoking weed went and started setting fire to forests in the United States, America, on federal property because they were trying to get them to overturn.
No, a couple of them did. They started a small fire, let's say, right? Not a huge blazing forest fire. They just started a small fire. There was a little bit of rioting there, right? Somebody got beat up. A couple of them had maybe some melee weapons. I don't think we would associate that with rebellion, and so I don't think we would associate that with insurrection, which is what I think we associate with rebellion.
I'm sorry, because I don't know the logical structures of argumentation as well as you do. When you say people probably wouldn't do that, what kind of an argument are we making there? When you say that people probably wouldn't think that's an insurrection, what kind of logical appeal are we making to challenge my definition? The people probably wouldn't think appeal?
Yeah, so
what is that? What structure are we
So
following?
hang on. So we'll we're going to untangle two different ideas. So I already gave you the critique of your definition. when you ask me Andrew, what do you associate with this thing, which is your direct question. What types of things do you associate with this? I tell you. Then I say, if that's the type of thing that I associate with it, I also think most people associate that type of thing with it as well. So these are two different
I don't care
ideas.
what most people, I'm looking at the legal and historical understanding of it, right? So in the Amy Warwick Prize case, the Supreme Court said insurrection against a government may or may not culminate in an organized rebellion, but a civil war always begins by insurrection against the lawful authority of the government. A rebellion
Civil
was
War
the
did not begin.
The Civil War didn't begin with an
No,
insurrection.
a civil war did not begin because of J6.
That it says insurrection against a government may or may not
Yes.
culminate in an organized rebellion.
That's correct. So it could
So there was an
still-
insurrection against the government. It didn't culminate in a rebellion, but those
Yes,
are two different
that's-
things.
yes,
and I can
this is-
show you Supreme Court cases where they've said they're two
Sure.
different things. So your idea here of, well, they probably
Sure,
thought they were the
but
same
your
doesn't really
definition,
seem.
Unfortunately, it's too nebulous here for us to associate this specifically with only the idea of insurrection when there's other ideas that fit it better.
Is there a single historical scholar, Supreme Court case, writer or framer or lawmaker ever that you can cite to that says that there is a nebulous, there's no understanding of what insurrection is?
Well, actually, yes. So the Supreme Court justices themselves have stated this. I do have a quote from one of the Supreme Court justices who said, this is not an easy thing to tackle because the idea of it is contested and somewhat nebulous. I believe, in
What was
fact,
the-
that was Justice, now I'm paraphrasing, but I believe that was Justice Roberts who said that.
And what was the full quote here?
I would have to pull the quote up, so I'm paraphrasing, right? But it was something akin to, this idea is actually, it's a hard associative idea. This was from Roberts himself. The Supreme Court clearly did not want to weigh in on this because they were afraid of making a definition like your own, which would be so broad. Are you disputing this? Let's start with this. Are you disputing that you think the Supreme Court didn't weigh in on this because they were afraid that they could make a definition of this, which was so broad that things would fall under the category of insurrection, that they really didn't want to fall under that category?
I don't think the Supreme Court made a strong statement about insurrection.
Yeah, what do you think, though? I'm asking you what you actually think.
They didn't really rule on the insurrection part.
I know they didn't rule on it, but why do you think they really didn't want to hear it? Why do you think it is that this is kind of such a hard concept for people to kind of get their minds around? It's because it is somewhat nebulous. It is associated with rebellion. And yes, there's precedents for these things, but the precedents don't directly apply to what J6 was.
It doesn't matter. The issue wasn't the issue.
Hang on, man. Let me finish my point,
Okay.
and then you can respond.
Mm-hmm.
Other things do seem to associate with it better. That's the point. Your definition is far too broad. You knew it would be far too broad. The Supreme Court also knows this. That's why the Supreme Court themselves, I think, really didn't want to go in and rule on it, because it would retroactively make a bunch of Democrats and Republicans insurrectionists based on other things that they have done.
That's great, and that's a bunch of reading into that Supreme Court decision that they had never said. But I'm pretty sure that the rationale that they gave in the issue was that different minds could disagree on whether or not an insurrection had taken place, and the idea that different states would make different decisions about it seemed to be very difficult for them. So in Barrett's...
So it's nebulous. It's a little bit nebulous. They can't really agree because it's kind of a nebulous concept, right?
Do you think that murder is a nebulous concept?
I think that justification for murder can be very nebulous.
Do you
if it
think that
comes to-
murder is a
Stop,
nebulous
stop, bro,
concept?
stop.
Why
Let
are you
me ask
rambling?
the question.
No, I asked you a question. Do you think murder is a nebulous concept?
I'm answering the question.
Do you think
So
murder
gotta
is a
let me
nebulous
an-
concept?
I'm trying to answer the question. Whenever you're ready to let me answer.
All right, I'm just going to repeat it when you're done rambling. But
Okay, well, I'm not going to ramble. I'm going to give you an actual direct answer. Certain aspects of murder, when it comes to justification, can be very nebulous. Yes, like right to retreat laws can be very nebulous. Yes, that can constitute murder. It can be very nebulous. We have some concept of it, but it's not really something which is easily graspable. Yes, it can be very nebulous, Destiny. Yes.
And yet we still have criminal convictions for murder.
That's true. We do still have criminal convictions for murder, which does not demonstrate your point at all.
It absolutely does. If a court
How?
is capable of determining whether or not a person can have a severe
That's
restriction
right.
to
And
their
what
life
did they
or liberty,
determine? They
column-
determined that none of them committed insurrection. That's what they determined.
That's not what they determined. What they
Yes,
determined
it is
was
what they determined.
Really? Where in the Supreme
Yeah,
Court
what did they
opinion does
charge
it say
him?
that?
Hang on. What did they charge him with? They
No
charge
one
him
is
with
being charged.
insurrection?
The Supreme Court is not a first review
I'm
court
not talking
of
about the
fact.
Supreme Court.
I don't know what
I'm
you're talking
saying-
about then.
what I'm
no one
saying
is
to you-
I'm sorry, where in the 14th Amendment does it say the
Wait,
crime of
you're-
insurrection?
All you're doing is speed talking. What I'm saying to you is, when you ask me, are certain aspects of murder nebulous?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, of course, certain aspects of murder are nebulous. Can people still be charged under those aspects? Yes. Can they be prosecuted? Yes. But you say, well, then you can prove it. Great. I agree. You can prove it. And when these people were prosecuted, they were not prosecuted for insurrection. So clearly, they didn't think it was insurrection, or at least it seems like they didn't think it was insurrection because they certainly didn't charge anybody with that.
Gotcha. Just as a quick spiel or whatever, because Andrew has no concept of how law or courts or anything works in the United States, the 14th Amendment has absolutely nothing to do with somebody being charged with a criminal conviction of insurrection. Criminal conviction of insurrection has nothing to do with any of this. And the question before the court in Trump v. Anderson wasn't whether or not somebody had engaged in the crime of insurrection. And the big issue that they cited to for why they rejected that case was because Section 5 of the 14th Amendment said that Congress can pass laws in order to implement something, and they interpreted it as meaning Section 3 could be implemented via the Section 5 power of the Congress, and that's why they threw that case out. They didn't
Total
make a
bait and
ruling.
switch.
It's not a bait and switch. It's just a basic
It is.
understanding of
Here's
how
why
courts
it's a
work.
bait- here-
But
nope,
all I
total
was
bait and
saying,
switch.
all I was saying was that you saying, well, it's nebulous, therefore a court can't decide that question. Courts deal with nebulous things literally all of the time.
That wasn't
the
my
idea
claim
that
either.
a court can't deal with something that's nebulous like insurrection
Wasn't
when
my
courts deal
claim.
with things like murder or affirmative defenses like self-defense or anything else is a ridiculous claim, and it shows a fundamental misunderstanding of what courts are even supposed to do.
Yeah,
what courts
except
are
that wasn't
capable
my
of doing.
claim. So here's the great kind of Destiny bait and switch, right? He just did a typical bait and switch. What he did was he said this. He said, Andrew, do you think that a court can do A, B, and C, or they can in some way rule or adjudicate even with a nebulous concept? My answer was yes. I think that even with a nebulous concept, they can. In this case, right? Even if we were to grant Destiny's argument that they can do this under nebulous concepts, they still didn't charge these people with insurrection, even if that's a nebulous concept. What he did instead was he did a bait and switch and said, "Oh, but he doesn't understand the law." Blah
Why
blah
do
blah
you
blah
keep using
But
the
this was
same
a
argument that's been
lead-in.
shot down?
This was a lead-in question.
Does somebody need to be charged with
And
insurrection for insurrection
hang
to have
on,
had
bro.
occurred?
Let me finish my point. I just let you go through your whole
It's the same
diatribe.
Gish Gallop.
So I went. It's not a Gish
It is a
Gallop.
Gish
It's a
Gallop.
direct
You're repeating
response.
debunked arguments.
You don't even know what a Gish Gallop is. You're
I
just
do. It's
spurting
when you
over
lay
me.
a whole bunch of
So
bad claims
anyway,
on
I'm
over
not
and over
laying
and over
any
again with the
claims. I'm
idea that the
refuting the
opponent
claims you
can't
made.
actually refute them because you keep stacking the same
Bro,
bad claims over and over again.
you made the claim. I'm refuting it.
You're
so
not
this was
refuting
a
any claim. You're
basic.
refuting the
This was a
same debunked
this was a
arguments.
basic lead in, and I proved the basic lead in wrong. And so that's when he went off on the diatribe about, well, what the the court, blah blah blah. What about the courts? What about the precedents? Well, that had nothing to do with the actual lead in question, which is what I was responding to. That's a classic bait and switch.
You said that the Supreme Court didn't rule on the definition because it was too nebulous. That's not
Because
true.
you
That's not why
asked
they
me-
rejected it.
You asked me, why do you think the Supreme Court acts? And so I just gave you my opinion. I think possibly it's because this is a nebulous concept. They didn't want to weigh in. It seems that Roberts agreed. When you read initially what Roberts said, it seems like that's what he's saying there, is that there's going to be a lot of disagreement here because we can't quite agree on this. That sounds nebulous to me.
All right. How about this? We'll take one more caller, and then we'll go to the Castle Club guys. Let's get the guy on the line.
Yes.
Go ahead.
0789.
0789, go ahead, hit the line. And then after him, I actually do have a potential topic of discussion for the panel. But let's get this caller on first. Go ahead.
0789, you are up. 0789, you are up.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. What's up, brother?
Awesome. Great. Mr. Wilson, big fan, Absolute Cinema. And I have a question for Mr. Borelli. If I knew what sexual assault was, but I had no fucking clue what rape was, could you ever prove to me that a rape took place? Because
because whatever definition you give, whatever definition I give for rape, you're just going to say it would fit with sexual assault. Yeah. No, true. Yeah. If you had no idea what rape was, but you knew well what sexual assault was, then any single time I try to define, well, I think a rape has occurred, you would just say, no, I think this fits with sexual assault. You would never give a definition of rape, and then you would just use that to try to win the argument. Yeah.
You left?
I think you left. Okay. Yeah. All right. So we'll go ahead and start switching on over to the Castle Club members. I'll hit a couple of these hands, and then I do have something that I was going to bring up to the panel. Who's the first person on, Bills? All right, we're going to go ahead. And just for the guys on Castle Club that are waiting, we're not going to put you on camera because we're live on YouTube and all the platforms, so I want to protect your guys' identities. But we'll go ahead and get the first person in that had something, Bills. Do we have them ready? Yeah, locals only. Yeah, Castle Club. Yeah, same thing. Yeah. Oh, no, not for the stream.
Damn.
Uh,
That's what I was just confirming, bro.
Yeah, no. I meant as in like it's fine. Go ahead. Just it's fine. We'll get these because they're still live on their platform, so it's cool.
Okay.
It's whatever. Chief Rocker, go ahead, bro. Chief Rocker. Going once. Going twice. Yeah. Damn, guys, but I didn't want to get off YouTube. Fuck, guys, come on, man. It's fine. Who's up next?
Hey, Myron, if you're
Yeah,
gonna move this over to the Castle Club, let me kill the stream on this end, and then
keep it up. You keep it up. That wasn't our intention to kill our stream on our end.
okay.
To do that, yeah, just an error. But you guys keep your stuff going on. That's cool. Just where the Castle Club members can ask questions. Go ahead.
Hey, so
Go ahead,
question
bro.
for Anthony.
Go ahead.
Would you say that would you say this is an organized attempt by a group of people to defeat their government and take control of their country, usually by violence?
No, I don't think for insurrection. I think that maybe that gets you to rebellion, but for an insurrection, it doesn't have to be an attempt to control the entire government. It could just be to contravene a certain procedure, official proceeding, or to resist the implementation of a particular law, to resist like the execution of a law.
So not a violent attempt to take control of a government.
Violence or intimidation of violence is a necessary element, yes, but not to control the entire government.
Well, 3 out of 4 dictionaries define it as taking control of a government. And then there's a looser definition that is just an act of revolting against civil authority or established government. But that's just a loose definition.
That's fine, but we have a Supreme Court and we have a legislative history that I would refer to in this country before looking at how a dictionary would define a particular thing. I don't think that at any time when you engage in statutory construction or legal review of a particular thing, do you just open the dictionary and read the dictionary definition?
Yeah, but the definitions come from a general understanding. And since there was nothing legally pursued, then I don't think the legal definition applies here. And more it's just the definition of what we understand something to be. That's why I'm bringing this up.
Well, even if you wanted to appeal to a dictionary definition, you'd be appealing to dictionary definitions at the time that insurrection was enshrined in constitutional amendment. That's what you'd be looking for. And then number 2, there were things that were declared insurrections, and there were people that were forgiven of like crimes of insurrection. So there is a legislative and there is a judicial history of understanding what that is.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So real quick, so this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna end the stream on our end. You guys stay like you are. We're gonna continue running the show because you guys are live. We're gonna come back on YouTube because we did not mean to end our stream on YouTube and Rumble. So we're gonna restart it back up. Castle Club members, you guys are still gonna go in and get your questions answered. We'll still be running everything. We're just gonna end the stream on our end, but we're still gonna be live on Zoom and everything else like that. So nothing really changes. We'll just fix some stuff on our back end. But let's get the next person on Castle Club. And I apologize about that, guys. I did not mean to end our YouTube stream at all. Or our Rumble. That was a mistake that we made on our side. So, okay. Who's the next person on Castle Club? Let's get them on. Or even we could go back to phone lines if we need to.
Yeah. Oh, no. We got Castle Club.
You got a Castle Club guy? All right, let him ask this thing while we restart the stream. Who's up next?
Wait, here's
it's me, Rico.
Oh, okay.
All right, go ahead.
Destiny, real quick, I have a question for you. Do you support the imprisonment of Americans without a trial?
Depends on what you mean by imprisonment. Like police officers
Like,
are allowed to arrest you and hold you while you're pending a trial date. I think there's it's 60 or 90 days or something is your constitutional rights or whatever. I think that might vary from like state to state, but in general, no, I'm opposed to people being held without trial. But there's also like the Patriot Act stuff as well. So I mean, it would depend on the circumstance.
Okay. Tell them on Rumble.
All right, that's good enough.
In general, I don't think people should be held without trial. In general, I think that's probably not good. But I know there are specific circumstances where, like pretrial stuff, you can be held for a while you're awaiting formal charges. And then for the Patriot Act, if there are like matters of national security, they might be able to hold you without trial for some indefinite period. I'm not sure if that applies to citizens as well, but.
All right, who's up next? Okay, Eric Richardson, go ahead.
Hey, I got a question
restart the
for
stream.
Destiny. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
All right. So, Destiny. So, if someone is protesting for or against a particular law that would directly affect them, would you agree that a protest is a type of political fight?
Yeah. A type of political fight, I guess. That's a pretty.
Like they're fighting for their rights, right?
I guess sure. Yeah, you can protest things. Yeah.
Okay, so if a fight doesn't necessarily need to be violent, why then do you attribute Trump's words prior to January 6th as calling for violence when he didn't directly incite violence in his language?
I don't know if he directly incited violence. I think that's a fundamentally different question. I think that Donald Trump called people there on January 6th to protest the certification of the vote because he had led everybody to believe that that certification could be stopped either with Pence or with enough force applied, I guess. And as the insurrection was ongoing, Donald Trump was making calls to lawmakers to try to continue to encourage them to delay the certification of the vote. So it seems like there was a plan in mind the entire time. It was even more extensive than that. But yeah, he was hoping that there'd be a lot of pressure. That's why he called people there on January 6th. It's why he, even when he knew they had guns and stuff, he sent them to the Capitol to go and protest. It's why he said over and over again, stop the steal, fight like hell to take our country back. And it's why when violence started and he watched violence happening on TV and he heard that Ashley Babbitt had been shot, instead of like trying to call people off from being violent, he tried to take advantage of the violence in order to further his scheme of having the vote not certified. So all of that seems to point in a pretty obvious direction. Yeah.
Picking up to what Andrew had said, similar to that, he didn't, like I said, he didn't incite them to violence, right? He was calling to fight, yes, fight for the election that he believes he was robbed from. That doesn't necessarily mean that he was wanting a violent outcome. And Andrew had pointed out that when the events did escalate to a violent nature, he did tweet to be peaceful. So to that point, Trump's motivation in the events of that day isn't in line with an insurrection. He wasn't trying to do an insurrection. He was just wanting a protest.
So
now,
here's like, yeah, so there's two different ways.
Into that is a different point.
Yeah, there's two different ways to look at this. I think this is a very simple analysis. I can't believe that there is, I don't think reasonable minds disagree here, but if we were to look at a man who wanted a peaceful protest, and you were to look at a man who didn't want a peaceful protest, who wanted an insurrection, Donald Trump takes every single action of the man who wanted an insurrection, but didn't obviously want to be like legally charged for it by saying, go and be violent, right? He called everybody there on a particular day. He was already enacting a plot, both in the background and publicly, to pressure Pence to toss out the vote. He was encouraging people to protest on the day, saying, stop the steal, leading people to believe over months that the election had been stolen. And when violence broke out on the Capitol grounds, even after Babbitt was killed, he was making phone calls to legislatures to have them stall the electoral vote. These are the actions of a man who wanted violence, saw violence happening, and everything was happening the way that he wanted, except he didn't ultimately completely stall the vote. If Donald Trump didn't want violence, he either one, probably wouldn't have called them there on the 6th. That's obviously going to be a huge red flag. Two, as soon as it got violent, he would have made calls to the National Guard to figure out like, hey, what's going on? Can I get people down there? Three, when multiple people were going into his office to ask him, hey, can you please tweet to get these people to fuck off, to stop? He would have done it immediately instead of waiting until after Ashley Babbitt was dead, instead of waiting for hours of violence to rage on. And four, he would have said right at the very beginning, at the very second anybody complained about anything, he would have reminded people to like, hey, like either leave, don't go in, don't do this particular thing, stop this now or go home, instead of, again, waiting and capitalizing on the violence by making phone calls to people. Remember, when McCarthy called him, Donald Trump literally said, sounds like these people are a hell of a lot more mad than you are about this. Like, this is a man who is taking advantage of the violence every step of the way. You can't possibly look at this guy and think, man, he really wanted them to be peaceful, when he's taking advantage of the violence the whole time and doing nothing to stop it, when it's easily within his power to do so.
So since you say then that, he essentially all but called for the insurrection by choosing his words carefully, or, however you want to say it, that my counter question to that would be, how could someone in his position want to peacefully protest the results of the election without you then saying it was an insurrection, being that it was the people at the site who ended up being violent, not because he called for it, it just turned into that. So how could Trump have otherwise called for a peaceful protest without you saying it was an insurrection?
Well, one is sending them to the place where the vote was being certified is already a huge red flag, number one. Number two is you've spent really months getting all these people to believe that the election was stolen with no evidence. Number three is you've used multiple parts of your government to engage in lies over and over again about there being evidence of voter fraud, which there wasn't, and he knowingly lied about all of these things. And 4, there's probably never an appropriate way to protest the certification of the vote. Because at that point, you're not protesting like voter fraud. You're not protesting like a court's decision. You're literally protesting the certification of the election. The electors already voted on the 14th of December. The election itself was already held on the 3rd or I think 3rd of November. Like at that point, what are you protesting? You're just protesting the certification of the vote, the peaceful transfer of power.
Okay.
Love you.
All right, who's up next? And then I'll go to my topic that I was going to ask you guys because I just want to get shift the conversation a little bit, make it more a little interesting.
James McFarland.
James McFarland, go ahead. And we're back.
Myron, I do have tonight. I do have a hard out at 11.
Oh shit! Eastern Standard Time or?
Yep, Eastern Time. Yep.
Oh shit! So you got 10 minutes left.
Yep.
Okay, no worries, man. That's fine. We'll just finish answering these questions and then we'll try to speed through as many of them as we can.
Alright, y'all call me while I'm taking a dump, but fuck it. Alright, so just to give, I'm gonna do a little statement and a question. But my statement is, I got to admit, I personally I fuck with both Destiny and Andrew as far as both ends of the aisle reign, like debating wise in the YouTube sphere. I typically think Destiny has more intellectual valid points, but throughout this little conversation y'all had, I think Andrew bodied you, and that's because of that hippie statement, bro. If people are out all protesting, they're filling every 4 of your things.
Worst dinner for your waistline.
Sweet potato.
Oh, sorry about that.
What?
Continue on.
Yeah. I don't know. As far as those 4 points are, if they're all protesting for weed, you're considering that an insurrection. It's like, if that's your definition, then that an insurrection, all right, who gives a fuck about who's having an insurrection? Like, that shit is not as serious as you're trying to make it, if it's as simple as something like that. Like,
I mean, you might just, maybe you don't think an insurrection is a big deal. That's fine, but people probably shouldn't be gathering to violently try to overturn laws in this country. We've got a process for it. We've got a whole legislative.
I knew that was going to be your rebuttal, but so why are you trying to equate that with a group of people smoking weed against a weed law? Like, that means
I'm not
words the same. Don't make both of those insurrections.
I never made both of them the same, but an insurrection is an insurrection. I can show you examples of rape that are far more atrocious than other examples of rape. That doesn't make one not rape.
Okay,
like, any crime can be done with more severity than another crime. That doesn't make it not a crime. It doesn't make it not a thing.
And a bunch of people smoking weed against a weed law doesn't make them trying to overthrow the government.
I agree. I don't think it does. A bunch of people, but if a bunch of people, would you agree that if a bunch of people smoked weed and they all decided they were going to show up and break into Congress to try to prevent them from passing some new law?
That wasn't the argument you made, though. The argument he made was if a bunch of hippies did all 4 of those arguments you made, and the one thing against the law that they were suppressing, because I was going to say this too, Andrew's argument against the suppression versus doing illegal activities during a riot, that was his stupid fault for his argument as well.
Wait, hold on. To be clear, Andrew didn't say they were just smoking. Andrew said they were setting forests on fire.
No. I'm not talking about that in general. I'm talking about Andrew was talking about they're committing crimes during their riot or whatever, and you were saying that's not them going against a law. Like, I'm agreeing with both of you in both what you're saying, but in his specific argument when he said those people are trying to smoke weed, I'm a little drunk right now too, so my words isn't as coherent. But when he's saying they were going against smoking weed and there's a bunch of hippies getting together and smoking weed, you can't equate that to people overthrowing a government and say, yeah, that's insurrection if that's going with my definition.
Yeah, smoking weed wouldn't be an insurrection. A crowd of people smoking weed wouldn't be an insurrection.
And even if it covers all 4 of your bases that you were saying,
one of them is by force or intimidation in order to overturn a law. So they would have to be rioting. They would have to be causing violence in order to get people to
So
overturn
if they were
a law.
doing that while smoking weed and their reason was smoking weed, that's an insurrection.
If a bunch of people showed up at Capitol Hill and they said that we're going to engage in violent conduct because we disagree.
Capitol Hill. Why does that have to be Capitol Hill?
I mean, it doesn't necessarily. I'm just giving an example.
Yeah,
I'm saying if they showed up,
it could be anywhere.
And
I'm more of your fan.
I mean, I guess it could be anywhere. If they engaged somewhere and they wanted to go and do a whole maybe it could be a state I don't know, maybe it could be a fucking neighborhood of like anti-pot smokers or whatever. And they're like, we're going to go here and we're going to start rioting and burning houses down because we want to have the fucking weed laws change. It is bullshit that these motherfuckers like took weed from us and they engaged in that behavior. I'd say, yeah, that's an insurrection. You've got an assembly of people that are trying to use violence, and then you're trying to change the laws, that are affecting publicly everybody. Like, yeah, that's an insurrection. You're insurrecting the government. That's not the process by which we change laws.
So
is
would
through
you
violent...
agree that insurrection is not that serious in that case then?
No, I think insurrection is incredibly serious. You don't want people thinking that they can get laws changed in the country by doing violent riots. That's horrible.
So you don't think the definition of that should be changed, or the word should be changed for an overthrowing of the government based off of your definition?
What
your
you did, I understand maybe
many boundaries.
Yeah, no. No, if you've got a bunch of people, even if they smoke weed, if they're committing acts of violence as a big group in order to pressure people to change laws, no, I don't think that's like a not serious thing. I think it's a really serious thing.
You think a bunch of people gathering together, smoking weed, if police come to try to control that situation, they start protesting against it as a part of groupthink. Like, this is common psychology. Like, it takes one person to go against police for a bunch of people to do that. You think those people are equivalent to people who are trying to overthrow a government?
No, I don't think so. No, but I don't know if that would even count as an insurrection by that. If it's just a bunch of people that got together and they're smoking weed or whatever and it ends up bringing in a riot, no, I don't think that would necessarily be an insurrection.
But they got together against that law against weed. They've gotten violent or threatening, the way you said. Like, it's crossing every four.
Listen, okay, hold on. You know what? This is the argument I would make also. And if any other caller wants to say this, I'm gonna flip this on them. If somebody wants to give a different positive definition, then fine, go for it. But like, I'm not gonna sit here and play through every single of like the most absurd hypotheticals you can give me. If you want to argue against me, you're arguing against the historical and judicial record in the United States. If you want to give another definition of insurrection, that's fine. But it can't just be, what if two people go into the forest and they say fuck the government and they kick a federally owned tree as hard as possible in order to we can probably find definitions around the edges that are like, well, I don't know. I mean, I guess technically this would be an insurrection, maybe it wouldn't qualify, but I'm not gonna, if you want to give an alternate positive definition for it, then we can critique that one. But this is the one that exists in the historical record. Like,
my main point was you could technically say a bunch of things was an insurrection. So let's not like, if that's the case, then an insurrection, the word insurrection is not that serious. But
it's very serious just because there's a name for this. I don't know if it's the continuum fallacy or what, but just because you can't like concretely define it, every single edge of a particular thing, doesn't mean that you can say, well, that thing doesn't exist or it's not very serious. That's just not true. We can imagine a ton of crimes that are very serious and not serious that are the same crime.
You could say one thing's more serious than another being the same thing. But
yeah, so I could say there are some insurrections that are probably really bad, and historically in the United States, there are some insurrections that probably weren't that bad, right? Like that, I think that whiskey rebellion was over like fucking tax stamps. I think the biggest deal was it was a big one, and it had to do with like the first time the national army had been mobilized for anything. But like that, it probably wasn't that big of a deal. Every insurrection isn't the worst type of insurrection. I think this particular insurrection was really bad, but we can't even agree on what the definition of insurrection is, and the reason why is because Andrew knows if he gives any definition of an insurrection, it's either going to exclude everything from being an insurrection, or it'll easily include January 6th.
What up?
All right. Was there somebody else next?
This is
you gotta go. Right?
Yeah, I do have to go. But I did want to thank Destiny for having this debate with me. It was a lot of fun. And thank you again to Fresh and Fit for hosting. My name is Andrew Wilson. I'm the host of The Crucible's fastest growing debate channel on YouTube. You can find our back catalog at thecrucible.video. Thank you guys very much. I really appreciate it. Sorry, I only had 3 hours allocated to this. We kind of went a little over, but.
And if your people want to continue to watch the stream, they can come on over to either Fresh and Fit or
Are you on YouTube right now?
Yeah, we're live back on YouTube.
Yeah, I'll set up a raid so that they can come on over, okay? If you're going to do an after show or something.
Yeah. I think me and Destiny were just going to have a conversation because I was going to talk to Destiny about some stuff too, and then the Couch Club members can chime in. But yeah, we're live back on YouTube and everything. You can send your people over to us or Destiny, whichever you prefer.
Thank you. Yeah. You guys have a great one.
All right, bro. I'll see you soon for Haas.